Your hands are at 10 and 2 on the wheel. The engine is idling. You can feel it through the seat, a low steady hum that has become the only thing keeping you calm. The coffee in the cup holder has gone cold. 3 black ski masks sit folded on the passenger seat. You haven't touched them. You won't. Your job starts the second they open the bank doors. You check the mirrors again. You've checked them 47 times in the last 6 minutes. There's a woman walking her dog on the sidewalk to your left. A delivery van parked half a block down. A traffic light cycling through red, yellow, green for nobody. The street is quiet. The street should stay quiet. That's how you planned it. 3 minutes and 40 seconds. That's the average police response time in this part of the city. You know because you tested it twice last week. Called in a fake disturbance from a payphone 2 blocks over and timed the first cruiser. 3:40. You build your routes around that number. Every turn, every alley, every lane change. Calculated against 3 minutes and 40 seconds. The doors of the bank swing open. 3 men come out fast, walking, not running. Running gets you noticed. Walking with purpose gets you ignored. Marco is in front. He's got the duffel. Eddie is behind him, hand inside his jacket. Tommy brings up the rear, scanning the sidewalk like he's looking for someone he forgot to bring. They get to the car. The doors open and shut in under 2 seconds. You pull away from the curb at exactly the speed limit. You don't look at them. You don't look at the bag. You watch the road. Marco is breathing hard in the passenger seat. He laughs once, a short sharp sound, and then he goes quiet. You take the first left, then the second right. Then you slip onto the side street you mapped out 3 weeks ago. The one with no cameras. The one nobody uses. 6 blocks later you pull into a garage. Tommy hits the door. The garage closes behind you. You step out, you wipe down the wheel, you change your jacket. The whole transfer takes 90 seconds. You drive away in a different car. Marco hands you a thick envelope through the driver's side window before you go. You don't count it until you're home. $18,000 for 90 minutes of driving. You tell yourself it's a one-time thing. 3 weeks later, your phone rings. Different numbers. Same voice. They have another job. You drive again. $22,000 this time. You pay off your truck. You pay off your sister's medical bill. You start sleeping better than you have in years. Here's the thing about being good at this. You don't get good by being lucky. You get good by being boring. You drive the speed limit. You signal every turn. You stop fully at every stop sign. You look like the most law-abiding driver on the road because you are the second the doors close. The crews start to notice. Word spreads in the way that words spread in this world, quietly in back rooms, between people who never use names. You become the guy who never panics, the guy who never speeds, the guy whose routes work. You start charging more. They pay for it. You buy a small house in a neighborhood where nobody asks questions. You buy your mother a car. You tell her you got a promotion. She doesn't ask what kind. You build a system. 2 cars per job, the runner and the switch. Routes mapped a month in advance. You drive every street in the city at 3 in the morning, learning where the cameras are, where the cops park, which lights stay yellow longest. You buy a police scanner. You buy a second one as backup. You know the dispatch codes better than the dispatchers. You know which sergeants take long lunches. You know which patrols cross paths at which intersections. You stop being a driver. You become a clock with a steering wheel. There's a job in March that everyone talks about for months afterward. A jewelry exchange downtown. 3 crews bidding for the route. You take it. 5 men, 2 cars, a 4-block lead, and a chase that lasts exactly 40 seconds before you lose the cruiser in a parking garage you spent 2 weeks studying. The crew tells the story in restaurants and back rooms, and you become a name people use without faces. You stop meeting people in person. You don't need to. Reputation drives itself. You don't know your neighbors. You don't have a girlfriend. You don't go to bars. You don't post photos. You drive at night and you sleep during the day, and your only friend is the police scanner. Your sister calls every Sunday. You answer half the time. Your mother thinks you sell insurance. You let her keep thinking about it. A year goes by. Then 2. You've done 47 jobs. Not one arrest. Not one chase that mattered. Not one shot fired in your car. The crews fight over you. The pay keeps climbing. That's the first mistake. Thinking you built something. Thinking the system is yours. The job is supposed to be a milk run. Small credit union on the east side. In and out in 4 minutes. The crew is one you've worked with twice before. Marco is back. There's a new guy, younger, named Davis. You don't like new guys. New guys get scared. Scared men do stupid things. But Marco vouches for him, and Marco has never been wrong. So you nod and you take the job and you tell yourself the route is solid. The route is solid. The crew is not. Davis pulls his weapon inside the bank. He wasn't supposed to. The plan was a note, a duffel, no guns drawn. A teller hits the silent alarm at the moment Davis is screaming at her. The clock starts. 3 minutes 40 becomes 1 minute 10 because the cruiser 2 blocks away was already responding to a fender bender. You hear the call come through your scanner before the crew even gets to the door. Suspicious activity. First Federal. You start the engine. They come out running this time. Running is bad. Running means something went wrong. You see Davis first. He's got blood on his sleeve that isn't his. Marco is yelling at him. Eddie is behind them, gun up, scanning the street. You should drive away right now. Without them, the job is burned. Your car is clean. You could be 3 counties over before they figure out which bus station you walked into. You could disappear. You have the money. You have the skill. You could vanish. But Marco gets to the car. The door opens. You drive. The cruiser comes around the corner at the exact second you pull away from the curb. Lights, siren, everything. You take the alley you mapped for this exact scenario. The one with the dumpster blocking half the entrance. The one a cruiser can't fit through at speed. You scrape the passenger side mirror off on a brick wall. You don't slow down. You come out the other end on a one-way street going the wrong way. You don't care. 3 blocks of wrong-way driving and you slip onto the parkway heading east. The scanner is screaming. 2 suspects in custody. They didn't make it to the alley. They got Davis and Eddie at the corner. Marco is in your passenger seat with blood on his shirt and a duffel between his feet. And you are the only person in this car who is not bleeding or arrested. You make it to the garage. Marco is shaking. You wipe down the car. You change your jacket. You leave him there with the bag and you walk out the back. You take a bus. You go home. You wait. 3 days later, the news named Davis. 3 days after that, it names Eddie. Marco is not on TV. Marco is not arrested. Marco is something worse. The phone rings on a Tuesday. The voice on the other end is not Marco. It's someone above Marco. Someone you have never spoken to before but always knew existed. He says you did good work on Friday. He says they have a problem. Davis is talking. Davis is naming names. Davis is going to name yours by the end of the week. The man tells you to come to an address. He tells you not to bring anyone. He tells you it's a meeting, not a hit. You don't believe him. You go anyway. You don't have a choice and you know it. You sit across from him in the back of a restaurant that has been closed for hours. He pours you a drink. He tells you Davis has been handled. He tells you not to worry about it. Then he tells you the real reason you're here. You're too valuable to lose. You're too valuable to walk away. You drive for them now. Only them. No more freelance. No more shopping yourself around. Full-time. Salary. They'll handle your taxes, your cover, your house, your mother's car payments. Everything. They'll take care of you the way they take care of family. You say no. He smiles. He says he respects that. He says think about it. He says think about Davis. He says think about your sister and your mother and the small house in the quiet neighborhood. He says think about the 47 jobs and how many people could fill in your name on a witness stand if they ever got the chance. He pours you another drink. He doesn't push. He doesn't have to. You sit there for a long time after he stops talking. You stare at the drink. You think about the bus station. You think about your mother in the car you bought her, driving to her bridge club on Tuesdays. You think about your sister at the hospital and the bills that never came because you paid them before she even saw the envelopes. You think about Davis in a holding cell trying to decide which name to trade for a reduced sentence. You think about Marco, who is not in a holding cell, who is somewhere being something worse than what he was. You drink the drink. You take the job. There was never a job to take. There was only the moment you realized you had already taken it. 2 years and 47 runs ago, the first time you didn't count the envelope until you got home. The next year goes by faster than the previous 2 combined. You drive twice a month. You don't pick the jobs. You don't pick the crews. You don't pick the routes anymore either. They give you the route. You drive it. You go home. They put money in an account you don't have the password to. They give you a card. The card always works. You stop sleeping well again. You start drinking the way Marco used to drink before a job. You see Davis's face on a news clip about a prison transfer. You see Eddie's face in a court sketch. You don't see Marco anywhere. Marco has been promoted. Marco sits across from you sometimes now, at the back of the same restaurant, pouring you the same drink. He doesn't talk about Davis. Nobody does. One night you're driving home from a job, alone in the switch car, and you take a wrong turn on purpose. You take a road you've never mapped. No cameras logged. No routes planned. You drive for an hour in the wrong direction. You think about not coming back. You think about the bus station. You think about Mexico. You think about a small town somewhere with no street cameras and no Marcos and no police scanner humming on the dashboard. Then your phone rings. The voice on the other end says they noticed your detour. They ask if everything is okay. They ask if you need a few days off. They tell you to come on Tuesday. They tell you they have a special job, an important one, just for you. You turn the car around. You spent your whole career being the man who could disappear. Now you're the only one who can't.